Vinnie Politan, who's a former prosecutor, of course, joins us now to break down this verdict. And Vinnie, even though justice was delayed, it was delivered to the family of Timothy Coggins. How did prosecutors use evidence in this case when a lot of it was missing? It's been nearly 35 years.
Yeah, this is really an amazing verdict for prosecutors, Ron, when you talk about 34 years ago and evidence actually lost. I mean, you have prosecutors getting up in court and saying, yeah, we lost evidence. We did not have everything we needed in this case, but they did have a lot of people who came forward and said that this man admitted to them that he did it. The problem with those folks, Ron, is that they were convicted felons, child molesters, Nazis. Those were the star witnesses for prosecutors, which really made this even more amazing.
Okay, we have about 20 seconds here, Vinnie, so there's one more suspect to be tried in this case, right? Do you think today's verdict is a precursor of what's to come for that next trial?
Absolutely. If I'm the co-defendant who is going to have his trial in August, I would not be feeling good tonight knowing that this jury came back the way they did. The evidence is going to be the same. We'll see if the verdict's the same, Ron.
Vinnie Politan, we'll see you tonight on the Late Feed, sir.